Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we got breaking news involving CP3, Chris Paul. You already know what it is. The legendary point guard will be returning, this in a few hours. He will be ready to go Tuesday, going up against the Washington Wizards. And dare I say, the Golden State Warriors desperately need his services. The Warriors, they just went through a lot. We just got to call it how it is, point blank, period. But at the end of the day, Chris Paul could definitely help out this basketball team. Whenever you got a guy with the IQ, of CP3, I mean, it's crazy. And when you start to think about Klay Thompson coming off the bench, it's not so bad after all. Look who's going to be facilitating him to rock. I think a lot of people took that out of whack with Klay. Listen, we just got to call it how we see it. This is why I'm clamoring for Chris Paul to come back. Before we get into the Klay situation, Chris Paul, we all know he had the crazy injury. He missed 21 games. He will be back. And Chris Paul is wild because Chris Paul is always something with CP3. Now, Chris Paul is one of my favorite players. I can't explain to you when Chris Paul came, out of Wake Forest. And like I said, he came into New Orleans, and it was just a movie. I never forgot that electricity of that quintessential point guard when he first came into the league. His style of play is almost become a dinosaur, right now. I think the last guy who was passed first, what you want to say, Lonzo Ball, who came in just looking to facilitate. But I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day, but the Golden State Warriors, man, point blank period, they're 10th in the Western Conference. We are after the All-Star break, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second half of the season. They don't have any time to play around. This is the wild, wild west, ladies and gentlemen. One blink of an eye, they could be up out of here. Now, as I'm looking at the standings, you obviously people think it's the end of the world for Golden State. Listen, I'm with the assumption Golden State gonna get there, whether it's through the play-in or through what. Don't nobody really want to see Golden State. That's the Golden State motto. And right now I don't know if they too so thrilled about regular season play, even though it's very important. But it is what it is at the end of the day. Behind them, they got the Utah Jazz, which they do have separation on. Golden State this season is 29-27. So clearly, there's a fall from grace from when they had Kevin Durant and company, but this team is still formidable. I want to remind you, they took down the Sacramento Kings, the red hot Sacramento Kings. They're not going to take the Kings down again. I don't think they'll beat the Kings the second time if they were to go against them. But as I see the standings, right, I'm telling you right now, if I'm one of those teams, if I'm Minnesota, if I'm Oklahoma City, I am petrified to see Golden State because they're going to do the same thing they did to Sacramento last year. That's why I want Golden State fans, Chris Paul fans, Curry fans, Klay fans, of course, Draymond fans, just pump the brakes 1 second. Look at the chessboard. You understand? You know what kind of team this is. Those teams are not going to know what to do in the playoffs. Oklahoma City, they're not going to know Chris Paul and these guys. And you talk about from the starters to the bench, they're gonna know everything to do. They're not gonna get rattled. They're not gonna get nervous in the clutch. You understand? They're gonna embrace the clutch. Teams like Minnesota, we haven't seen Karl Anthony Towns perform in the playoffs, and it seemed like it was an eternity. Now they do have some veteran leadership there. Maybe I'm a little more concerned with Minnesota. If I'm Golden State, I want Oklahoma City because Chris Paul used to play there. About Shea. I think they take down OKC. It's gonna be tough, but I say they take them down. Minnesota, I just think that they got a perfect blend of veterans. You understand? They got veterans, they got young players. So I think that's gonna be a little tougher. But Steve Kerr gonna have to roll his sleeves up too, y'all. It's not no more where the Golden State, they just overwhelm their teams with their sheer talent. Their offensive will is it was like a juggernaut. They're not doing that to teams anymore. They actually have to work for what they're gonna get. You understand? Now the question is, can Golden State being 10th out west, can they scratch and claw with CP3 to get us some wins? Maybe catch the Lakers at 9. What about Dallas at 8? You understand? So these are the things that if you are Golden State, this is what you're trying to do. You clearly want to stay away from, what's going on. You don't want any massive things going on left with the Golden State Warriors. Like, obviously, you got to look out for injuries. Klay Thompson, we don't know what's going on with him. Chris Paul, some always tell me he may not be available in the playoffs. It's been a while. I want to hope with all of this time, Chris Paul could come back and be ready for the postseason, because that's what's going to be needed for Golden State, because they're going to need that second unit. And if you Klay Thompson, man, like I said, Klay coming, they got what's this guy name? I don't want to mispronounce his name. Was it Promisky, if I'm not mistaken, pardon me? This guy right here, listen, this is why Golden State is suffering right now, because of that draft decision when they drafted James Wiseman. That was a poor decision. You had Tyrese Halliburton on the board. You had LaMelo Ball on the board. The list goes on. And you have a guard issues. Steph Curry, we all know what he gonna bring to the table. But now Klay is starting to diminish. Chris Paul, he probably got about another year or two. So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, Golden State didn't sustain their future as good as they should have. And it is upsetting, because Golden State was a juggernaut. I think it's gonna be a team. It was to the point where nobody could beat them. It was like, why even play them? So there's definitely gonna be a team that I told people about for years, to come. But just the sustainability, I'm surprised that they didn't put some more things in place, because now you're relying on Chris Paul at this age to fix some of the things that they're dealing with. Gary Payton dealing with some issues. Let me know what's your thoughts on Golden State. Will they ever win another championship? The answer to me is no. But they can scare the living daylights out of one of those two teams. And it's going to be interesting to see whether it's going to be OKC or is it going to be Minnesota. But if I'm Golden State, I definitely like my chances. I don't think it's the end. I don't think it's the end at all. I think it's the beginning, to be honest with you. They're in this situation for a reason. Now it's time to excel. It's Flight Sports TV. Make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe for more news updates and more as we bring them to you. You already know what it is. We're going live tonight on LiAngelo Ball, G3, G Honcho. Peace and love. You already know what it is.